So today we are talking about March Madness. And March is more than just my birthday month. Isn't that right, Andrew?
Oh, that's right. It's your birthday. Uh, it is my favorite month of the year. Has been for a long time. It's college basketball. Like the meat of it has finally happened. And it's the best. I'm a Duke fan, as you can see back there. That is my team. That is who I root for. Ride or die, et cetera, et cetera. Even though I went to the rival school, we'll talk more about that later. But that is who I root for. And we have a son named after the where they play. So there you go.
Cameron Indoor Stadium, for those of you who don't know, that is not our son's name. He's just Cameron.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know what I was getting into when I met you, Andrew, and we started dating. And I mean, yeah, Cam was due in March, and Andrew said he said to me that he hoped that our son that Duke did not make. Well, you didn't say you didn't hope that Duke didn't make it to the championship game, but you just hoped that I didn't go into labor during one of those particular games.
Yeah.
I said, well, that feels like a choice that has already been made. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it turned out I think I didn't have to worry about it in 2021. I think that was a rough year in 2021 for Duke. But on our first date, what'd I tell you?
Oh yeah, on our first date, you told me that your firstborn, boy or girl, would be named Cameron, and that your first dance at your wedding would be to One Shining Moment, which apparently I still am not entirely sure I understand where that comes from. It's some like montage video at the end of the season, at the end of the tournament.
So
So March Madness is a basketball tournament. Okay, let's go there. Right? It's a
yeah.
basketball tournament that happens once a year that's played among all college basketball, or like who decides who gets to be in the tournament?
So it is not all college basketball. It is the NCAA Division One schools, which are 350 or so of them, and 68 of them are in the tournament.
68
Yeah.
teams. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go from 351 to 68 teams?
I don't 351 is not the exact number, but it's somewhere around there.
Somewhere in there.
Uh,
Yeah.
so basically have like four parts of the season. So starting in late October, early November, you have like the preseason, which
Basketball.
correct.
Okay.
And so all the teams are broken down into conferences. So like you of like around 10 to 15, 16 teams per conference.
Okay.
It's like you have your group of friends, right? And so like there are 10 people in that group of friends,
Uh-huh.
right? And then you have like bigger groups coming out from that.
Okay.
Uh and so preseason, you have those teams are playing teams from other conferences. We call it the non-conference season. And so that kind of determines like which teams are better, which conferences are better than other conferences. And the
But all the
pre
conferences, how many conferences are there?
there's 31 in Division 1.
Okay. So all the conferences, wait, so when you say that the conferences play each other, a non-conference, like
So,
meaning,
for example, Duke is in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
okay, I know that all this got rearranged recently, right? Like all the
Yeah, there's
conferences
yeah,
kind
a
of,
lot of
yeah.
shifting parts, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But Duke is not forever, but for the last 50 some years has been in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So they are in the ACC
Okay.
for short. So they'll every year now, but whatever, it changes. They'll play teams from the SEC, Southeastern Conference, like Kentucky, or they'll play teams from the Big 12, like Kansas. They'll also play teams from like lesser conferences, a little disrespectful, but like smaller school conferences, like the NEC, Northeastern Conference, or like the America East. So like teams like Vermont or like just teams like schools like Stony Brook, like schools that you've probably kind of never heard of.
Yeah.
And so I'll play schools like that. They play a school where my grandparents lived called Stephen F. Austin State University.
Oh, in
That's
Texas. Yeah, yeah.
in Nacogdoches, Texas. And Stephen F. Austin actually came to Cameron Indoor a couple years ago and actually beat Duke in Cameron Indoor. So like That's the kind of stuff that can happen in the preseason.
Okay.
Um,
But usually teams are playing within their own conferences. Like
so
they're
then
not
that all that happens, and you have like a Thanksgiving, you have like preseason tournaments where they'll all gather in like neutral site tournaments.
okay.
Like in Maui, there's one. They'll have one in the Bahamas. So you have like 8 teams get there. And again, this is all kind of like figure out the best collection of teams are. And then after that, you'll get into conference season
Okay.
to figure out who the best in a given conference is.
So that they're playing with like within their own
Correct.
like
So
the
like,
Atlantic Coast Conference plays Atlantic Coast Conference teams is
yes,
typically. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And so like Duke and North Carolina is the biggest rivalry. They'll play twice a year. There's also like a lot of smaller schools have smaller school rivalries, all sorts of stuff. By the way, our newborn Cooper is with Meg right now. Um, so you might hear some of that coming through.
Some cooing.
Yeah, coming through. Um, so that happens throughout the next part of the year. And all this, it all kind of shakes itself out. You get like metrics that people can look at and be like, oh, this team is better than that team, stuff like that. Same thing like
Okay. I
in
maybe
a workplace. Like if I filled out 7 papers and Meg filled out 5 papers, the boss will look at it and be like, hey, Andrew is more productive than Meg. But then if he looks at mine, he's like, oh, wait, there's more mistakes. Even though he got more done, there's more mistakes on his
okay.
than there are on Meg's. Maybe Meg's actually the better employee.
Gotcha.
So it's kind
Okay.
of like that with the games. So it comes up with all these, you get all these numbers to figure all this stuff out. Like called like RPI is the one you'll see a lot.
What is that?
Another, I don't can't remember what it actually stands for.
Sorry. Put you on the
It's
spot
all
there.
right, but I mean it's just called R. Like it's just a number, so
Okay.
everything's ranked.
Yeah.
And so everything has a metric around it, and it's what I'll get to in a second. But they'll
So
look at that.
it's not just wins and losses then
It's
that they're
not just
looking.
wins. Like you'll see like a team that'll get in with like 17 wins and 11 losses, and they'll get in over a team with 21 wins and 9 losses. Like that's just how it works out.
Okay, so there's 30 games. They play 30 games.
No, they all play different numbers of games.
Oh,
It
you're kidding. There's not even a standard number of
there's never
games.
no, there's not even a standard number of games.
Oh, wow. Okay. Who decides this stuff?
It's all so the ACC now has 15, 16 member schools.
Okay.
And so we have more conference games than like let's say
Oh,
somebody like the West Coast Conference, excuse me, before Washington State and Oregon State joined, but they only had like 8 teams, so they would have way fewer conference games.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That makes
so
sense.
and it just depends on like you make your own non-conference schedule. So like you can schedule as
Okay.
many, and the other part is a lot of those smaller schools. So like they will get paid. So like so when Stephen F. Austin played Duke, Duke paid Stephen F. Austin to come play at Cameron.
Okay.
It's like that's another part of that. So like that happens with a lot of smaller schools. And there's just a story about Mississippi Valley State. Like they're paid competitors, so they will go to a lot of these bigger schools, basically get paid to lose to go to these schools, and that's also how they fund their athletic budget as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
But they don't count for anything. Like so the Mississippi Valley State goes and plays
still
10
counts as
different teams.
no
But it does
if they play Mississippi, it counts as a win on Mississippi's record, Ole Miss's record. Mississippi is Ole Miss,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And it still counts as a loss on Mississippi Valley State's record.
But it doesn't count towards the numbers that you're talking
It's
about to
it
get in.
still counts towards the metric. Now, if Ole Miss were to lose that game, it would hurt them badly in the numbers. But all those still count towards the numbers.
Even if they're not conference.
Correct.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay.
But everybody kind of like this year, the Southeastern Conference is kind of like recognizes like, oh, that's kind of the best conference. And then a lot of we'll get to more of that later on too. But because they did so well before the conference slate started in January, late December to January, they are kind of recognized as like one of the better conferences.
This is the South Conference you just said.
Southeastern Conference, yeah.
Southeastern. Okay.
So like
Okay.
for example, like every year it was the ACC would always play the Big Ten, which is like Midwestern North schools
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
now USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon with all the stuff that's going on. We'll
Okay.
we'll have an episode about that later on too. Trust me. But now the ACC plays the Southeastern Conference in the ACC Southeastern Conference Challenge to kind of figure out that kind of stuff, like who's the better conference. Southeastern Conference kicked the ACC's butt in that. They went 13-2 or
Oh,
whatever. Like it was just,
okay.
and so now you look at that, you're like, oh, the SEC is a lot better than the ACC,
Yeah.
and so their numbers and all those metrics are going to look a lot better when it comes to the end of the season. And so also when it gets into conference season, it's harder. I know this is very esoteric, so please ask any questions. It's harder for those in conference wins to look good. It's like I use Duke as an example. So like in the ACC, there's only like four opportunities to get a win that looks any good on a national level
Okay.
as
I
far
feel
as those
like
metrics go.
okay. I feel like we're like
I know we're
I
in
feel
it. I
like
know.
my brain just kind of went to like
I know.
mode.
So all right. So we're through the conference season. Let's just say
Okay.
we go through.
Through the conference
We
season.
have one more weekend left in the conference season. So like Duke
Leading
plays
into leading into
correct.
March Madness.
So this weekend Duke plays Carolina. That is their last game of the regular season. There's a bunch of
Okay.
other
Okay.
rivalries. We've actually already started conference tournaments. So
Okay.
then you get all the way through the conference regular season, and then the conferences themselves will have a conference tournament
Okay.
where they'll all be bracketed, just the conference themselves, to crown a tournament champion. And I
Oh.
and I believe in every instance, the tournament champion, they get what's called the automatic bid into the national tournament, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, the big dance.
Oh, so
So
okay,
like
so winning doesn't like having a good record doesn't or your RID numbers doesn't guarantee. Like there still is like it's like a draft. Is it like a draft for the March
it's
Madness?
it's more the other way. So
What other
like
way?
so like being terrible throughout the season
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily guarantee you that you are done.
Okay.
So like last year,
Hmm.
NC State
Oh yeah, yeah.
would not have made the NCAA tournament.
By
They
numbers alone.
correct. They were not good enough through the rest of the regular season by numbers and metrics, RPI, all that kind of stuff, wins over good teams, all that kind of stuff to make the NCAA tournament. And all of a sudden, they get in the ACC tournament, they make a run, they win either 4 or 5 games, they beat Duke, they win the ACC tournament, they beat Duke and Carolina actually in the ACC tournament, and then they get in the NCAA tournament. That was the only way for them to get in the NCAA tournament was for them to win the ACC tournament. And that's the same for all 31 of these. If you win that conference tournament, you are in the NCAA tournament and you have a chance to win the entire championship.
Guaranteed.
You have a chance.
But I mean you're guaranteed to be in the
Correct.
tournament.
You will win that. So selection Sunday, when that bracket is released on CBS and that glorious music starts playing, na, 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 your name will be revealed on a bracket line on selection Sunday.
Okay. Okay. Now who so you said so who's selecting on selection Sunday? Who
So
does the
these
selection?
selection committee. So there's athletic directors, there's former coaches, former players. I think there's some media members. So they're all in a room and they're looking at the metrics, wins over whatever teams, all that kind of stuff to decide. So you have the 31 automatic teams. So the teams that won their conference tournament that are already on there. So that leaves 68 teams get in. So 68 minus 31, that leaves 37 what they call at large bids.
Okay.
So the selection committee has to look at all the 350 teams that were participating and say, all right, who are the 37 best remaining teams that should be vying for a national championship?
Is this regardless of how they did in the championship in the conference championship tournament?
So it's complicated.
Okay,
So
okay,
it seems the last couple years they kind of disregard results of the conference tournament unless you win it.
okay,
So like if they call it the bubble, that's another conversation here a lot. People refer to the bubble. So the bubble is teams that are on the cusp of getting into the tournament. So when they say
okay.
a
Oh,
bubble,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
so when they say a bubble is burst, that means oh, they're not going to get in the tournament.
okay,
So a
okay.
team like again, for my conference, the ACC, a team like Wake Forest, if
Hmm.
they lose in the first round of the ACC tournament, they are 100% not getting in. Their bubble is
Oh,
burst. They are not going to get in the NCAA tournament. And we
okay.
like just it's just kind of like general knowledge that people know that
Well,
like
people who
exact people that follow. Yeah. But like you can just look at their metrics and be like, oh, they're not getting in.
Okay,
So
okay.
like that's what they call the bubble. The teams that so like again, a team like Carolina,
Yeah.
who is they are on the bubble. So like you can watch ESPN. There's a guy named Joe Lenardi. Google him.
Hmm.
He's like keeps track of all this stuff for ESPN. And so like he is keeping track. He's pretty good at keeping track of this stuff.
Hmm.
He will be able to tell you, according to him, basically the teams that are in and out. And so right now he has Carolina as his first team not in the tournament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if Carolina were to beat Duke on Saturday, that's at Carolina. But if they were to beat Duke on Saturday, that would go a long way towards them going into the tournament. But if they were to lose, maybe lose badly, and then lose first round of the ACC tournament, their bubble would burst and they'd probably not go in. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
I think so.
In other words, recently the selection committee looks at they basically look at the end of the regular season and be like, that's it, that's your body of work. It doesn't really matter what you do in the conference tournament. We're looking at only at the regular season, and that's it.
Okay.
Unless you go in like NC State did and win the whole darn thing,
Yeah.
then we don't really have a choice. Then you're in.
Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's back up just a skosh
Yes,
because I
please.
feel like we've gotten into the weeds in
That's
all of
fine.
this.
I know.
And why might this be important? If you are a girl like me, why might this be important? What just this overview, like even having listened to this,
Yeah.
what could a gal, single or otherwise, do with this information? Why might this be important for someone?
So it's all because the reason March is important is all because of the bracket.
The
And
bracket, yes.
I'll let you tell the story of the boy.
Oh gosh, the boy. Yes. I was living in LA and I had a crush on a guy at church. And I was telling my therapist about this guy. And I said to him, I was like, we were greeters at the door together. We were on the like the welcome team. And I said to him, I was like, I don't even know what to talk to him about. This is before I, actually started dating. I said, I don't even know what to talk to him about. And he said, well, it's March. You could talk to him about March Madness. And I was like, I don't know
Is
what
that a
that is.
disease? Is that like,
Like
like
mad
desert
cow
fever?
disease.
Yeah.
March Madness, yes. And he said, like you should, I mean, you could make a bracket. And I was like, I don't, are we talking about like a grammatical like thing, like the brackets that I had no idea. I had no idea. So I remember like Googling or something, March Madness and a bracket and and I felt like the biggest idiot when I came up to him and I was like, hey, so who's your team? Who's your March Madness team? Like, no, it's not the March Madness team. Like, it's probably his team, like just his team, right? So anyway, let's just say that relationship didn't go anywhere. Um, I crashed and burned pretty hard because I couldn't even pretend to know what I was talking about. Um, I mean, I maybe knew that March Madness was basketball, but that was probably about it. And then as I started dating more, I was like, oh dang, yeah, this is just like this is something that like guys are they're into, you know? Um, and I mean, I know a little bit more about this now, obviously, having been married to you for what, almost 7 years now.
Yeah.
And having filled out a lot of brackets and uh, I just do it for fun because I mean, I look at them and I'm like, I don't know, I
But
like this team's name. They've got a
but
cool
honestly,
mascot.
there's no point in doing it for anything. It is impossible. Like, I think I know a lot. I'm so bad at filling them out. Nobody is any good because there's never been a perfect bracket. The odds are
Oh,
1 in 1 trillion. Like nobody's ever picked every game right.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember. I have to look up what the actual odds are. Like you're picking a 50-50 chance, kinda, 63 times.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
whatever the math is on that, and
Hmm.
it's just you can't account for the upsets. And that's including like there
Wait,
had
what's an
never.
upset? What's an upset?
So an upset is when in the NCAA tournament. Generally, an upset in the regular season is when a team that is not favored, a team that is not supposed to win, wins.
Okay.
So, so Vegas will put out numbers. So like
Yeah.
the casinos will say like this team is supposed to win by 5.5 points, and then the other team wins. So that
But
would be
they're
an upset.
and Vegas is looking at all the numbers and all
They
the
have
everything,
all the
right?
information you could ever ask for. Yeah. In the tournament, an upset generally refers to when a lower seeded team beats a higher seeded team.
Okay, now let's talk about seeds real quick.
Okay.
Like what does that who decides? Like what does that mean? Is that based on their numbers?
So it's
Like
it's kind I guess it's kind of a misnomer lower seeded for that. The
well, I know,
higher number the seed, the lower seed you are. So
right, so
like
number one is like the best. Like if you're
the
number
best,
one
yeah.
seed, like you're like at the top of all the things.
Correct. There's
How
four of
many
those.
four one seeds?
There's four one seed, but everybody has a slot. So the committee, the selection committee ranks everybody 1 through 68.
Okay.
And
Like
so
just
like
straight 1 through 68.
yeah.
Or
And
is
so
it
like
like 1 1 1 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 like
so
are
they
there
do
four
that as well.
twos?
There's four
Okay,
twos,
okay,
four threes,
okay,
four. But they
okay.
also say, let's just say right now Auburn's the number one ranked team in
In the
the
nation.
AP. Yeah.
What's
In
an
the
AP?
Associated Press poll. Like by
Oh,
sports writers. So like let's
okay.
just say they would be the number one team and the selection committee would say, okay, they are the number one team. We want to give them the most favorable path because they have earned that right. And then Duke will be
Why
two of them.
seed? Why the name seed? Why what is that even?
I think it's even outside the sports. That's just what it's. I mean,
Oh, okay.
tournament seating. I don't even know how to explain that. I don't know. Maybe because it looks
That's
like
okay.
groups. I don't know.
Oh,
Like
the
if you look at a
bracket?
bracket, it kind of looks
Oh
like
yeah,
groups.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
up until 20, we were watching that game. 2019. When did we buy the house? What 2018
2019, yeah, yeah,
or condo? 2018. There had
yeah.
never been a 16 seed, which is the lowest you can get in the tournament, which is generally from like a very like not a conference you will have never heard of in a school you have never heard of,
Okay.
had never beaten a 1 seed. And then it happened that year.
Oh, I remember this. And I
Yeah.
think I had them as winning on my bracket.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So like even accounting for that kind of like there's no way anybody accounts for that
Yeah.
except you. It's savant.
Well, I like, I pull for the underdog,
Yeah.
like these one seeds that go all the way, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Literally, because
Yeah.
it's the UMBC Retrievers. Is that what they were? Or whatever they're a dog. Um, but they beat Virginia. And that was a 16 over one. That was the first time that happened. And
Ever.
then that was the first time it ever happened since. So
Wow.
the first time the 64 team tournament
Yeah,
started
yeah.
was 1985. And that was
Okay.
the first time a 16 had beaten a one since 1985.
Wow. 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, So there's just no way to pick all that stuff. So an upset is when a lower seeded team beats a higher seeded team.
Okay. Okay.
I don't look. I don't. So like to me, I mean a 10 over a 7. So they're basically like one plays 16. The 15 seed plays the 2 seed. The 14 seed
Oh,
plays the
yes,
3
that's right.
seed.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so forth and so on. 13 seed plays the 4 seed. This is all the first round games. 12 seed plays the 5 seed. 11 plays it. 11 seed plays the 6 seed. 12 seed plays the 5 seed. Wait, I did that one. Whatever it is.
Like you count
10,
back and yes,
correct.
right? Yeah,
It all
yeah,
adds up to 17. 10
yeah.
10 seed plays the 17, 9 seed plays the 8 seed. So that's I wouldn't consider it an upset if 9 beats 8. Like people will be like, "Oh, what's your upset special?" 9 over 8. I'm like, that doesn't count. They're the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but like 11 over a 6, I feel like that's an upset.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like that's what they call like so then like if one of those teams, like a 10 or 11 makes it to the second weekend,
Okay.
like the first two games are on the first weekend. So this year, the first weekend, I'm trying to think when it is. Do the math on it. So this weekend is the 8th, right?
Yes. Yep, 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 yep. I normally put my calendar.
Yeah.
This weekend is the 8th. Yep.
So next weekend will be so the 16th will be Selection Sunday.
Okay. And then how many weekends is March Madness?
So the first Thursday will be the 20th,
Yes.
March 20th. That's the day like if I was a millionaire and like I was like not working, I would just be like I'm sitting on my couch, I'm eating pizza, I'm watching games from 9 until whenever they're done. 9 on the Pacific Coast until whenever they're done. Like it's the best. It's just like from the moment that you're just waiting for the first upset, it's the absolute best. You hear the music come in, Road to the Final Four, CBS, all that kind of stuff. That
Yeah.
they've had the rights. They've split it with like CBS, the TV station.
Hmm, hmm.
Ever since I've been watching, they've been the one that's been showing the NCAA tournament. So like, yeah. Anyway, we can go further into like TV rights later on, but like, it was always
Okay.
special to me because like I had nothing but basic TV growing up,
Uh-huh.
like ABC, CBS, Fox, like so like having a game on in the middle of the day was the best.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the first
Didn't
weekend.
you say
20,
that you watch these games at school too?
so yeah, we would watch these games at school. Yeah, and like
Wow.
sanctioned, like the teacher would push the TV in on the cart, and like we would watch,
Oh,
especially the ACC tournament.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, like the pre-March Madness
yeah,
tournament.
we would watch
Oh,
that at school.
okay. Well, no wonder this is like in your blood.
Yeah, so like I'm from North
Yeah,
Carolina, so like this is the deal. Like it's
yeah, yeah.
um,
Wow.
but anyway, the first weekend of the NCAA tournament is the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So if a double digit team seed makes it past that, they would be called a Cinderella.
Okay, so it's Thursday, Friday. No, no, no. Yeah, Thursday,
Thir-
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's
Correct. So
the
Thursday, Friday are the first round games.
okay. Okay.
So your bracket needs to be done by the 20th. If you're making a bracket, it needs to be all filled out by the 20th.
Okay. And then what do you do with your bracket once you filled it out?
So normally, if you're doing it online, whether it's
Yeah.
like if you go to ESPN.com or you go to Yahoo, CBS Sports, whatever, you'll probably automatically be entered in to win something, whatever it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you
But you
have to pay
also,
to fill out a bracket?
not generally.
Okay.
But if you're in like an office pool, it could be like a $5 thing or be a $10 thing or be a $100 thing,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And then it usually does the math by itself
Mm-hmm.
automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, whoever gets the most points in the bracket wins the money.
So each game is allotted like a point value?
Generally speaking, first
Okay.
round games are worth like one,
Okay.
second round games are worth two, third round games, so forth and so on. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
so like, you want your teams to stay in longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So if you have like a Final Four team, so like Virginia was a 1 seed when they got knocked out in the first round, whoever had Virginia in the Final Four or in the national championship lost a lot of possible points because they got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Okay. 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 So back to the dates. So it starts on the Thursday after Selection Sunday, which this year is March 20th.
yeah, technically, by the way, they are play-in games. This got a lot more complicated starting in 2011. They added four, so for a long time it was 64 teams, and they added four teams. So now there's play-in games that start Tuesday and Wednesday of that week.
Are they like wild card games?
Kind of like you don't have to choose those in your bracket generally.
Okay.
Like you would just say, I think whoever wins that play-in game would is going to win the next game. But you don't have to
Okay.
choose the winner of those games.
Got it. Got it. Got it. But if you don't, but if I choose a team that didn't make it, then does that screw up my bracket?
What do you mean?
I mean, so are those four teams, are they part of all the teams to choose from?
Yeah, so let's say let's I use Carolina again. So Carolina's on the bubble. Let's say Carolina uh, is in the playing game and they're playing, let's just say UCLA
Okay.
in the play-in game. You would not have to pick the winner of that game. You would just say, I think the hypothetical winner of that game would beat the
Oh, I see. Okay, okay, okay,
yes.
okay. Okay. Gotcha. So okay. So there okay. Understood. That makes
So
sense. That
when you're
makes
making your
sense.
bracket, that's yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So there's no like if I picked UCLA and then they lost, then I'm screwed because I thought UCLA was going to go all the way. No, it's
correct.
just the winner of that game.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
You don't have to pick that game. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it's the following week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday too, right? Like when is the last March Madness game?
Okay, so first round's 20th and 21st, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Second round is Saturday, Sunday, 22nd, 23rd.
Okay.
Um, so there's 16 games on the 20th,
Oh my
16,
gosh.
16 games on the 21st, and
Uh-huh.
CBS and Turner, so TNT, True TV, TNT, have
Yeah.
kind of scheduled to where like there's constant like action. So like game goes to halftime, another game's tipping off. Game
Oh
finishes, another
wow.
game's going to halftime, game's tipping off. Like it is around the clock. And so, and you can always be flipping channels.
Or
Um,
like doing like the new thing with like the four,
or yeah, picture in picture.
right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
really want to impress a date, you go picture in picture. I mean, it's over. Uh,
Do you hear that, ladies? Did you make note of that?
they're also, by the way, like if you want to like have it on at work, you can have like the quick key to like go to like a graph or whatever that have it like
To
did that
watch the
quite,
game.
yeah, did
Yes,
that quite a bit in
yes.
college.
Love it.
Uh, and then so then on the 22nd, 23rd, there are 8 games apiece on those days.
Okay.
Those are the second round games.
Okay.
So then after that, it is from 68 teams. It has been whittled all the way down to 16 teams.
And that's for the following weekend.
Correct, and that is called the Sweet 16.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. I was like, I don't know what the weekend's called. I don't know. The second weekend of March
Yeah,
Madness.
yeah.
Yeah, the Sweet 16. So what they all have names, right? Don't every
So after the second round, everything has names. So Sweet
Oh, it's after
16.
the second round. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So if you're in the 32,
yeah.
you're
You
just
made the second round. Yeah,
second round. Okay.
yeah.
So it's Sweet 16,
And then if
Elite
you,
8,
yeah,
Final 4,
yeah,
and then the championship.
and then you're in the championship game, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
would
yeah.
be a national champion. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Are you impressed that I just rattled all those
that's
off?
yeah, well done. Yeah. Uh, so if you're a lower seeded team,
Uh-huh.
like anything below, like down the line, especially a double digit seed, 10 and lower,
Hmm.
and you make it to the Sweet 16, you would be called a Cinderella.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So you might, if you're watching a game, you might hear a broadcaster say, the shoe fits, the Cinderella's going to Sweet 16, whatever, you know, stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Why? Because it was just like
It was just,
magic that they landed there.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, they're not supposed to be there. Like
Okay.
Cinderella at the ball,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not supposed to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, and some teams will be like, "What do you mean? Like we're supposed to be? We're no Cinderella. Like we're like that." Almost take as like an insult, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um. So yeah. 20. So this year, 27th, the 28th would be the Elite Eight games.
Okay. And they're all in one day.
Uh, they'll split them up. They'll split them up.
Okay. But
And
it's
then
not 2 days still. It's not 2 days for Elite Eight, 2 days for
it
Final.
is, yeah, it is.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
29th and 30th, there'll be two games apiece to determine. Um, give me a second. To determine who will go to the Final Four. And if you go to the Final Four, that's generally considered a very successful season.
And then when do the Final Four play?
Final Four will play on Saturday and Monday. That'll
Oh, the
be
in April?
yeah, so that'll be the 5th and the 7th.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
So keep your eyes out, get your brackets in. Any
Okay, so
questions? I know we got
if
into the weeds there. It's hard to like, yeah. Anyway,
okay, so anybody listening who wants to fill out a bracket, where can they go to fill and because it's like click, right? Like they don't have to the
yeah,
the
you
the,
just
the
click through.
system does it all,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
where could somebody who's like, "Hey, this year I want to fill out a bracket and, join the water cooler
yeah.
conversation." Where would they go to fill out a bracket?
So the bracket will be released on the 16th at
Okay.
around. I had to look it up probably around 3 p.m. Eastern or so maybe 5 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Um, and so that's when the selection Sunday happens. And then you have until the 20th at like noon Eastern. Around noon Eastern is when the first game tips. You can go to
Okay.
ESPN.com. You can fill out as many as you want. Go crazy. And then if you want to join an office pool or like just somebody, I promise you, wherever you work, somebody will be running an office pool. If
Someone's
they're
paying
not,
attention.
if they're not, you could start one yourself
Yeah,
and just
yeah, yeah,
say
yeah.
just say, hey, it's $10 to enter, and you can create a group on Yahoo or CBS Sports or ESPN. And
Uh-huh.
again, it does it all kind of automatically. Like you just click through, and you can do as much or as little research as you want. You can just say, I think a gator would beat a tiger in a fight or whatever. You know,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm trying to think of a more absurd mascot uh, of somebody that would like be in the tournament that's not in the SEC. I think a
A
spot
cyclone would take out a badger.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Wisconsin, I think is on the bubble. That's a good. Yeah, yeah. Cycle. Yeah, a gator doesn't have a chance in a cyclone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I love it.
or you can do your research and be like, oh, they're really good at shooting threes, but the other team is really bad, and the other team is really bad at 3-point defense. So I think the other team, I think this team will win, or whatever.
I would just say that for every bracket I've ever filled out, I have never done any research. Ain't nobody got time for that. No, that
It
does not
doesn't
bring
matter.
me
It
joy.
literally does not matter.
Yeah, yeah.
The trends
And
get
I've done
bumped.
pretty well. There have
Yeah,
been years that I have done pretty dang well.
yeah.
I mean, I haven't yet made the correct guess for who makes it to the final,
Well,
the
that's
the
because you're married to me,
championship.
and I make you choose Duke every year.
No,
But
you don't
that's
make me choose Duke. You don't make me choose Duke. No, you don't. No, you don't.
and we've only been together since 2016. The last national championship was 2015. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but they got a good shot
Yeah.
this year.
Okay.
So
No, I always pick Duke. I
yeah.
Funny story before we wrap up this episode of the pod. When we first got together, I jokingly said to Andrew, I was like, maybe I should be a Carolina fan since you're a Duke fan. What was your response to that?
I said I don't think so. Not if there's a choice. Like if you were like a Carolina fan, like
Uh-huh.
originally,
Right, 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 right. Yes, totally different.
yeah.
Uh, mm-hmm.
But we'll also like not like we toured Cameron.
Yeah.
Like we were very fortunate. Like I have friends at both places.
Perks
It's
of
like
working in sports.
so like we were able to tour Cameron. Very awesome, like awesome place.
Yeah,
And we were able to tour like the Dean Dome and
yeah.
like see everything underneath, like see like the shoe collection and like
Oh yeah, it was really cool.
yeah, both
Yeah.
places super cool. Like I have nothing but respect for the Carolina program. Honestly, like I'm a fan of I don't Do I have the book here close?
No, it's behind you all the way.
Anyway, if you could see it, it's right. Hold on.
Right here.
Yeah, to hate like this is to be happy forever. So this is actually written from a Carolina fan's perspective. So I know there's a podcast that does like compares it to gossipy stuff. I don't know who are some mortal enemies that would be like, I don't know.
I don't
Tease.
know.
Yeah, I'm not good with the pop culture references of like I don't want to step too far into the weeds on it either. And like,
That's okay. It's like it's a pretty well established
yeah,
rivalry,
yeah,
right?
it's
It's yeah.
it's yeah, it's
Mhm.
Tupac and Biggie without the murder. Like it's like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I was just saying it to be contrarian, and then we started watching these games, and I said to Andrew, I don't know how people who cheer for opposing teams end up in relationship together because
yeah,
oh my gosh, I mean, I see how devastated you get when Duke loses. I can't imagine, not joining you in that devastation.
yeah. Well, then like, so the worst day of the year every year is the day that Duke loses out of the tournament. Like it's
Mhm.
just,
I can confirm. I
yeah,
can confirm.
it's the worst. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but and
Mhm.
then I mean, 2022 was bad. I mean, salt in the wound because like there's these monsters, like these legends of the sport. Like there's like the Jack Nicholsons and there's like the Mount Rushmore people of the sport. And Duke had one of those in Coach K
Yeah.
and Mike Krzyzewski was his name or is his name. And so like he was retiring in 2022 is his last year. Everybody knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were a really, really good team in 2022, like ridiculously good. And they played Carolina, final home game. Ballyhooed, like gonna be great. I'm like, I get home, we're watching it, and they lose to Carolina in his final game, and it's just like devastating. And
I
but you're like,
cried.
yeah,
I cried.
yeah. And Carolina fans are, of course, having the best. Like they're laughing and all, and understand like it's a rivalry. I get it, you know. And you're like, it's okay, you know. Go to ACC tournament, it's okay. I think we won the ACC tournament that year. Go to the NCAA tournament. Like, all right, fine. We can still win national championship. Sit them on a high note. It's okay. Go through the NCAA tournament. We're looking great. Everything's fine. And then Purdue gets upset by, I believe that was a Fairleigh Dickinson year. And you're like, hey, Fairleigh Dickinson, because you always root for the Cinderellas. You're like, yeah, all right, yeah,
Hmm.
go a little bit. And then you look at the bracket, you're like, oh, wait, Carolina's going to get to play Fairleigh Dickinson. I say Fairleigh Dickinson because you've never heard of Fairleigh Dickinson unless you went to Fairleigh Dickinson. Guess you've heard of Carolina because Michael Jordan went to Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, oh, wait, they get to play Carolina gets to play Fairleigh Dickinson instead of Purdue, who was the number one team in the country that year, like hands down.
Yeah.
They Carolina murders Fairleigh Dickinson. They make it to the Final Four. Guess who? Duke has to play. That my nightmare, by the way. Carolina. Duke hadn't played. I fear. I have nothing but fearful respect for. I never want to play them in the Final Four. Never want to play the national championship, and that's who we have to play in the semifinal and the Final Four. Duke versus Carolina. Coach K's Final Four. We lose to Carolina in the Final Four. Duke Coach K's last game, and it's just crushing. And Carolina can hold it over Duke's head until Duke at least wins another national championship or
Hmm.
whatever. And so like
Yeah.
that's how like it just means so much. Like I don't know how to like there's no other way to explain it. I don't know any other media like Scott Van Pelt, who's a sports anchor, says it's the best reality TV sports is. And I don't know how any other way to explain
Side note, Sports Center, ladies and gentlemen,
it.
is a show, not a channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
But
man.
I don't know if you have any other analogy for like what could make you like feel that way.
I don't know.
That's not like tragic real life stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
I mean, I have yet to find something that is on par with
Yeah.
like understanding.
Look at you using the sports
Oops,
terms.
that was a
Yeah.
mistake. That was an accident.
Yeah.
Um, Wrong sport too.
Yeah. We'll
Uh,
get there in April when the Masters comes around.
no, I don't think that I have yet to find an equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any questions, please hit us up. I believe we still have the Instagram handle at Girl Meet Sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, comment on YouTube we'll have the video up on YouTube. Please let us know any questions. Also, this is a conversation starter. If we're
Yeah.
wrong about something or whatever, please ask whoever you know. Like, don't be afraid to ask the silly questions,
There are no
or
silly
there
questions.
are no silly questions.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
There might be some
Ask away.
unanswerable ones, but
Yeah.
silly, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. And by the way,
Mm-hmm.
this is March Madness is just Division 1. So like next week, it looks like I will be calling the Division 2 NCAA first round at Cal State Dominguez Hills. There's also Division 3. There's also NAIA. Like there's all sorts of college basketball going on. So it's not just Division 1 basketball that's happening in March. But when people talk about March Madness, it is generally what they're talking about is Division 1 and the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's
and
a
I will say
blast.
too, yeah, I was gonna
It's
say,
so
as
much
someone
fun.
as who's not a real basketball fan, I always enjoy it. I feel like there's a reason to like care and tune in, even though I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know what all the calls are. I feel like everyone travels. They all take 47 steps to get to the basket. But I mean, but it doesn't matter. Like it just
It's
it's an
worse than the
easy
NBA, by the way. Like it's been a talking point this week in the NBA, like how bad traveling's
traveling.
gotten in the NBA. But
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, but I was just gonna say that it just makes it fun. I mean, it's on, people are talking about it, and to have some knowledge without even really having, like, you don't have to know anything, but just know who you're rooting for, who you put on your bracket, just makes it that much more
Yeah.
interesting.
Really,
So
for March Madness, like all you have to know is if a buzzer beater happened, if a shot went at the last second for a win, like know that happened. Like, did you see? I mean, one of the more famous ones, Valparaiso beat. I can't remember who they beat at this point, but did you see that? Or like Northern Iowa beat Kansas. Did you see Ali Faroukmanesh beat Kansas with his like know that? Or if a big upset happens, something like that, you know.
okay, so we talked about an upset. What is a buzzer beater?
Buzzer beater is a shot that goes through the hoop uh, as the time runs out. As the time, so all games are timed. They go 42 20-minute halves.
Yep, yep.
So as the time hits 0, 0, 0, then the ball goes through the hoop. The
Because the
bu- the
ball,
the ball has to leave the person's hand
before time is
before
up.
before time is up. And you'll have a buzzer that goes off and you'll have a red light on the basket. And so the ball has to leave the person's hand. It can go through the hoop after the buzzer goes off, after the red
Hence,
light goes off. That's what's called a buzzer beater.
okay.
And so know those moments and know if an upset happens and
Yep,
it'll
yep.
be fun to talk and like, have fun with your bracket, you know.
Yeah. All right.
The bracket's
Let
the
us
fun part.
know. Let us know. Who do you have going all the way?
Yeah.
Who do you have going all the way?
Yeah. Talk
All
to talk to
right.
people about your upsets. I'll have, it'll be fun for the first like don't talk about it too much. Like give it like 3-minute conversation. Be like, oh, I have my sleeper team is this, and then talk
Ah,
about who you have going on. Don't get too deep into your bracket. Say like, oh I have an 11 seed going to the Elite Eight, and I have this is my Final Four team or my Final Four teams. This is my winner, and that's as far as you need to go. And I promise you, if the other person is like in on it, you'll get them.
you get
Like
them. Yeah.
you'll have a lot, not get them, like you'll have a lot of fun talking about it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Great conversation.
Yeah.
Opener, starter, continuer for a couple weeks.
Yeah. And also go YouTube One Shining Moments. Luther
Mm,
Vandross sing One Shining Moment. It's the song that plays at the end of the NCAA tournament. It's the best. Anyway, it's yeah, you'll cry.
yes, you probably will, even if you're not into it, if you're not
Yeah.
into basketball. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be into basketball to be into March Madness. I think that's, if you hate basketball, maybe this would be awful, but if you don't hate it, I mean, it's fun. It adds a fun layer to it.
Yeah.
Um from a non-sports person who has done it for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, sounds like, I mean, we'll be back next week talking more March Madness, more details about all of this that,
Yeah. Well, I
you
guess
know.
one less. I guess I'm fortunate that I root for a team. I guess it wouldn't matter if I was Duke or Carolina. that I root for a team that has always kind of been in it. Like I don't. So like a lot of y'all probably root for either went to school at a place or root for teams that are not a lot of either maybe half the time are in it or generally not in it or whatever. And that's where the bracket comes in. Like I was a Duke football fan, like obviously like I'm not in the CFP, the college football playoff a lot, or
Mm.
as a Dallas Cowboy fan, like not in the Super Bowl a lot. So doing the squares and the prop bets and all that kind of stuff, that makes that a lot funner. And so like, it's kind of the same thing with a bracket. Like it makes it a lot more fun to be involved with this stuff and be able to talk to people about it.
Mhm. Yeah. And you're so good at teaching and breaking
Yeah.
all this stuff down.
Yeah. We'll
All
get more into
right.
like kind of strategy of the game and all that kind of stuff
At some point,
later on.
so you can tune in and enjoy the game as you're watching.
Yeah. But for right now, just know about a buzzer beater, know the upsets. It'll be a blast.
All right. Let
Take
us
off work
know.
Thursday, Friday too. Take off work. You ain't got to go to work. Take off work. Take a sick day.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we'll see you here next time. Thanks for joining us. Hit that link, hit subscribe, and don't miss a single episode. And see you here next time. Bye.